Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rotten about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It's only one I choose to devote my life to. That's okay.
It means something. It means something.
And they got away.
You know, that's my take. What's yours?
Protonic reversal.
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It is a science thing. It is a science place. It is a scientific fact that we are all up in your faces. Time once again for the one, the only Protonic reversal. Welcome to it. Episode 341. 341. And I gotta tell you, this is gonna date this episode immediately, but this Canadian wildfires, I'm over it, man. I would like to breathe again. Please and thank you. That's the pressing business of the day. Why do I invoke Canada? Invoke? Am I invoke? It's like a spell or something. Because I have David from Tunic on. Very exciting. Of course, astute Protonic reversal listeners will remember that I had none other than John Newton, one of the Johns of John. What a fun sentence to say. Who are on tour with Tunic relatively soon this fall, and we talked about that a lot. We talked about so much. Oh, there we go. For the YouTube listeners, that's the Tunic tour poster with all the dates and everything. For audio listeners, I'm just showing something you can't see. Sorry. So this is sort of like the second part of that conversation, so to speak, which is with David from Tunic, who is the awesome band. I'm a fan of theirs. They work very hard. They do their thing very well. And very excited to talk to that guy. But before we do that, let me do this. Welcome to Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. I am your host, Conan Neutron. I am a rock and roll lifer that has been touring and recording for 23 years, most known for the band Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and he's the format of this very long-running podcast to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect, but may not be household names. This is episode 341. If this is your first time listening to the show, archives of it are available for free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding at ProtonicReversal.com. However, if you want to support the show and get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/ProtonicReversal will achieve that goal. And if you like the show or even just a single episode, please feel free to like, subscribe on your platform of choice, share it around on the internet, and even leave a review. All of that helps people discover the show. It beats back the almighty algorithmic overlords, and it's just a darn nice thing to do. Okay, so there you go, folks. Tunic. Rippers. Let's talk to David. Excited to have this rocker on, man. David, welcome to the show. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. This is an exciting tour that you have set with John. I was talking about it last week, and I guess I'm talking about it this week too. It's a case where even though the bands don't like sound alike, there's like a common cause. Mm-hmm. I think between these bands. I got his side of the story. How did this tour come together?
Sure, I would love to know what John. So there's John and Johnny,
right?
And so Johnny came and saw us play in London, and he was one of the maybe 12 or 13 people there when we played in London, UK for the first time ever.
Sure.
There was also a transit strike, but I knew that if there wasn't a transit strike, we maybe have 15 or 18 people.
Right. Dare to dream. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. We just chatted, obviously, because there's not that many people there.
Yeah.
And so they just reached out for us to do the tour with them. They reached out to our agent. Their agent reached to our agent. They wrote us an email. And yeah, and then we had like 3 days to decide what we were going to do because we had some other dates booked that we had to let go and to decide to do the John tour.
Oh, interesting. So you basically had a bunch of stuff held, like a tour in waiting, if you will, already.
Yeah.
But it is exciting because it's sort of like a Marvel team up or something. I guess the word Marvel is now poisoned by the movies, but like I'm thinking about the comic books.
No, it's we've never done a proper support tour where we're playing like, real sized rooms and like, you know what it is like from going from DIY to doing something like that where you're just like, oh, I get a sound check and there's actually there's a green room and monitors and maybe some hospitality and the show's done by like 11.
Yeah, what the way I characterize it is people aren't treating you like you won a contest.
Yeah.
To be there.
Yeah.
They treat you like a professional. And it's like, oh, wow, that's what it feels like, huh? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So that I look forward to that. And yeah, it'll be funny because we're sharing a vehicle with them. I don't know if
right.
So
I heard about that, which I guess it makes sense. I mean, like you don't
there's
have
only 5 of us.
5 in total. That's like, for some people, that's like one band.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, if we had a bigger band, we would have just driven ours.
Yeah.
But we use a Dodge Grand Caravan that seats 4 uncomfortably, 3 very comfortably.
Right. Yes. I know those vibes as well. Yeah.
So, and so, yeah, it'll just be cool. And like, it'll be nice to fly in and out of tour also, which is really like this tour starts in Phoenix and ends in New York. So
yeah, you're covering a lot of ground.
Yeah, it's a lot of shows. I'm grateful to have not have to like do any hand holding in a booking of a tour, but I mean like it would have been
right.
It would have been cool to do Montreal. It would have been cool to do Detroit, but c'est la vie. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
It's cool to have I think we pretty much have every either Monday or Tuesday or Sunday and Monday off, which is not bad.
Those are usually the days that are not the best.
No, and I still work from the road, so I will be very
there you go. There you go.
I actually don't drive. I don't drive on tour anymore. I make my bandmates do it. I drive after 5 p.m. and on the weekends. And
other times you're just rocking the hot spot and getting the day job. Yeah, nice. Yeah. Nice. I've done that too. It can be hard when you're driving through like areas where it's like, where's the reception in this state? Is it anywhere? Like
I bought this weird little puck thing that like can pretty much get service anywhere. Like I use it all across Europe and all across the UK. Like it was good. I
feel like they could market those just to band people that do that.
Yeah.
And they could that could be like a niche product, right?
That or what's that dumb
30
term?
band life hacks that you need.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Read about it and I don't know. Exclaim, which is a Canadian publication.
Right. No, I know what Exclaim is. Come on.
Okay, well, I don't know.
It's not my first. My listeners are very adept and astute. David, how dare you? Yeah. In fact, actually, I think Replicator got written up in a like years ago. But anyway, whatever. That was like a lifetime ago. So you guys came to my attention, and the you guys in this case being Tunic. I don't know, like 2018, 2019. When did everything start though? Because it was like a few years before that you guys started up, right?
Yeah, it's actually Tunic's been a band for a very long time, longer than I'd like to admit.
We all get a mulligan for the last 3 years, by the way. That's what I've decided.
Okay, cool, thank you.
I was talking with Tony. It was like, Jesus Christ, has it been 9 years since we started this band? Like, how is that possible? I'm like, oh, I know why.
Yeah. I mean, Tunic.
Oh yeah.
Tunic really started like as a hobby / was going to be my hilariously enough and ironically it was going to be my band that never went on tour. It was supposed to be like my like home band of like people that I just like have for fun and play local shows and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be like my foyer into like not going on tour and just like having a band for fun.
Yeah.
Clearly that didn't happen.
Yeah. So much for that idea.
Yeah. And so that would have been 2012 because I was booking a bar called the Low Pub, which is like I guess like a Mortimer's equivalent, like 150 cap.
Yeah.
room, and it was the first room that I ever booked, and then it was closing. No fault to my own as the booker. It was a totally different thing. And my buddy Sam, I had hired to do door, and he was a drummer, and I always wanted to play music with him. And so then we started playing together, just the two of us, and I wanted to make like a heavy indie rock band, and Sam was a hardcore kid who played drums like he was in a hardcore band. So then I was like, oh, I should write heavier songs.
Right.
And I asked my roommate at the time, Rory Ellis, who to just come play bass with this guy, Sam, that he's never met before. And Rory said yes. And then we probably spent like 3 years of meeting up at like midnight and just smoking cigarettes in the jam space and drinking beer. Like I remember Sam was a dishwasher, so we'd pick him up at work at like 11 p.m. after work, and then we'd go to the jam space till like 2 a.m. And we just like, that's, you know, we just hung out. And I like never sang in a band before. I never played guitar in a band before.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I bought a guitar to make Tunic.
Oh, wow.
Tunic's the only band I've ever played guitar, and I'm a bass player originally. So.
I was like, that's like a vision board kind of thing, right? Like,
yeah.
On this rock, I should build my church. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I just wanted to play in a band that no one could like. I had played in some other bands where people were like, you're not really good enough to be in this band.
Oof. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I don't like that feeling.
Yeah, that's lame.
So if I make my own band, no one can tell me that because it's my band.
Right, exactly.
And yeah, so like that was Rory, Sam, and I jammed for like, I don't know, we did about 5 years. That's the original lineup of the band. And then eventually Sam left. Actually, the thing is I said, does anyone want to play? We played some shows with our friends in a band called Blessed, which is also from Canada. Mm-hmm. And Drew's like, I want to play 100 shows a year. I'm like, I want to play 100 shows a year too. And so when I brought it up to Rory and Sam laughed and said, absolutely not.
Well, you know, fair for knowing what you want, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then Rory said, like, let me think about it. So then Rory did it for a couple of years, and
yeah,
Sam got out, and we had some other people fill in, and then eventually we found Dan to play drums, and then Rory went back to school right before the pandemic and quit, and then Tomas joined. But like I made, everything up until Quitter is Rory, Sam, and I. Quitter is Rory, Dan, and I. And then Wrong Dream is Dan and I with our friend Drew from Bless playing bass. And now everything onwards is Dan, Tomas.
Yeah, it's like what seems like the final form lineup as far as
exactly.
I would characterize it.
Yeah, it's like we're all road dogs now when we're all just in it. So.
Yeah, I mean, you seem very much like moving as a unit, like very unified with purpose, and you know, like just everyone seems to like each other. It's always good.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, like we you know, like Tomas, I only know from like both Dan and Tomas were fans of the band before they started playing in it, so it's kind of just like
That's
they
awesome.
both showed up to like their first practices, and I'm like, what do you want to play? They're like, oh, I know everything.
Right. Oh wow, very cool. Yeah.
And I was just like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, well, just what do you want to play? Quitter, Boss, Disappointment. I know them. I'm just like, okay, sure.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's go.
So that was wild. That was extremely wild. So I was happy with that.
So when you feel like it like kind of comes together, is it this lineup? Did you feel like that like it really comes together like as like, oh no, we're able to do all the things that I want this band to achieve, or that it evolved into achieving? Like when's the moment where you cross the Rubicon?
Oh, I don't know if we have even yet.
Okay.
But no, like there were some moments where I was like, we're a really good band. And then every time I'm like, and, you know, not like, you know, that sounds so braggart and full of myself, but I'm just like, no, we're good. Like, this is cool. I think it's maybe like
It's a safe space, David. It's okay.
Thank you. Like when we sold, I remember selling like one of our last copies of like Complexion, which is our debut record. And I was like, oh wow, we sold like 300 of these. This is pretty cool. Like, that was like a big moment when people started singing Disappointment back. But really, like when I guess we crossed over with this lineup because I was like, here's the tours I want to do, and everyone was just like, sure. Like it was just like everyone just texted back me and like, I'm like, oh, should we have a band meeting? They're like, why? Yeah, let's do it. Let's go. And I was just like, okay, great. Like,
well, because it definitely went from me like, oh, here's that cool Canadian band. Oh yeah, those guys. And then like, oh man, they're like everywhere suddenly. Like they're just they're hitting it. They're like, they're doing the thing. And then I think something happens when a band plays all the time too, where you just get like ridiculously tight and you're able to kind of like almost reach a new level as a live act, where you're able to like you're not just holding the angle. You know what I mean?
No, and like it's like one of those things. Like I was having this conversation with a friend of mine where it's like, yeah, Tunic was definitely a band that got tight on tour and figured out who we were on tour, and you don't have to do that. We chose to do that. Like we chose to like dedicate ourselves to the road and play 100 shows and sort of prove to like a label or to anyone that like we're capable of doing this. And now it's about doing it a little bit smarter, like
tactical strikes almost, and
exactly. So
you
like,
can't. I mean, as nice as it would be, like you can't play everywhere. It just isn't feasible.
No, and it's detrimental at the end of the day. Like we're playing New York for the third time in 18 months. You know what I mean? Like on this tour,
that's a lot.
Like, and I'm just like, that's probably too many times. Like.
Yeah, how can we miss you if you don't go away? Yeah,
exactly, and that's the exact concept. Like I look at like obviously like Jesse from Ken Mode was probably the biggest person to encourage me to push the band to take it seriously.
Yeah.
We actually, that's funny. We just randomly played together in Saskatoon once at a festival.
Oh really?
Yeah, and Jesse like came up to me. He's like, "I'm sorry, like." I'm a complete asshole. I don't know who you are. I've never met you.
Yeah.
I've been on tour for like the last 5 years, so I don't know how I know a band from Winnipeg because I've been gone. But like, are there like you're very good? Are there more of you? And I was like, there's one more of us. Like there's a band that I played in that I quit because I just got too busy, and then I missed playing in that band, and then I made Tunic because I missed playing in that band, and so there's two of us.
Was he talking about like for the like that area, like that region?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, which is not known as a hotbed of weird music.
No, and so like Jesse was just like, is there more noise rock bands in Winnipeg?
Yeah.
Some like 20 somethings, and I was like, there's one other one.
You guys may have been the first band that I was like, oh, from Winnipeg, Manitoba. like that I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like there's actually a band I know from there now. Like I'm sure other ones have existed and like maybe even like something obvious, but like definitely nothing coming from that world.
Oh no. Ken Mode being the closest adjacent thing, and even then it's a little more metally, but like the biggest Propaganda is from Winnipeg.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the Weaker Ends are from Winnipeg, and Backman Turner Overdrive, the Guess Who.
BTO. That's right. Who can forget BTO? Yeah.
Neil Young.
Is Neil Young from? Oh yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
Neil Young and I went to the same high school, not at the same time.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, and then actually the biggest artist from, I was just having this conversation with a coworker the other day. The biggest artist from Winnipeg of all time is Venetian Snares, which is the like electronic gabber musician.
Okay. Yeah.
He's like, he's like almost like an equivalent to like Aphex Twin, but he's just lives in Winnipeg.
This guy lives in Winnipeg that also happens to be a very well-known artist in his genre.
Yeah. Like he plays like arenas, like in Europe, and he's just like, you just like see him walking around like getting a coffee and having a smoke, and you're just like there, and he's like, hey. It's just like,
it's like, oh, that's that guy. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and is it a friendly city to kind of come up as a band in for that kind of music? Meaning, is there like an audience for it there, or is it you have to kind of wag the dog a little bit?
Well, I think that's also one of the reasons why we went on tour so much, to be honest. Because there just wasn't like no one really decided to fuck with us locally, and to be honest, I was for how old am I now? I'm 31, and so from about 15 to 28, I was a concert promoter / booker for a living. Yeah. And so I booked all the shows all the time, and I booked a couple festivals, and that was my job. And like, so it was kind of weird to play locally a little bit because it's like, oh, there's a guy that books the shows, and he's putting his own band on this bill, right? And so it's like, I didn't want to do that or be that guy. Which was very funny, actually, when the first time I ever booked METZ, the agent's like, oh, METZ wants Tunic to play. I'm like, that's me. He's like, I don't care. That's what they want. That's what they want to play.
That's what they want to play. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And he's just like, great. Are you available? I'm like, yeah. He's like, great. Glad we had this talk. And I was like, okay.
That's hilarious.
Like,
but it is also like about whatever fits too.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think it's an outmoded concept that people that are doers can only do the things, they can't participate in the things.
Well,
like,
yeah,
it isn't 1968, you know.
Yeah. Well, we're from that same side of things.
Yeah.
Right. Like, exactly. And and so it was just one of those things where, like, we just had to play it right and just make the call. But yeah, there wasn't much for us locally. Like, we were too heavy for the indie kids, and that's the world that
Right.
Rory and I and Dan too actually grew up in. We all grew up in the sort of, like, Dan also grew up in the metal world and being into metal, but Rory and I, who were like started the band and were the core songwriters of the band at the time, at the start, were very much indie kids who grew up going to American Apparel and going to Urban Outfitters and being those dorks and like really partaking in the indie sleaze era of music, and then later found punk rock, and Sam introduced us to a bunch of really cool stuff. Actually, Sam's dad owned a record store. Sam was so ahead of the curve. So like when I was like finding music that I was like, this is really cool, and I'd be like, maybe I'd be like 20 or something like that. I'd be like, I love Bauhaus, and Sam's like, oh yeah, I was really into that when I was like 13. like I remember Sam like Sam was done with Nirvana by the time he was like 8. You know what I mean? Like,
I got hooked up on everything like super early, and then therefore was over it early.
Yeah. And so like I remember seeing Sam like walking around with a Discman in high school because he's a year younger than me, and we weren't friends yet. And he was like smoking and carrying a stack of CDs that would be like Bjork, Cocteau Twins, Dark Throne, like
Yeah.
And I was just like, and he was like 13, 14 years old. And I'm just all like, and so he was just way ahead. So he showed Roy and I a bunch of cool stuff. And so all the punk kids didn't like us. All the indie kids locally didn't like us. And so we probably just play like every so often. And then we would go on tour, and we started to tour, and like we'd come back from tour, and the hardcore kids would be like, I saw you played with Hank Wood and the Hammerheads or something like really cool.
Sure. Yeah.
And they'd be like, that's pretty cool. And I'd be like, thanks, man. And he's like, why, like, it's like when we all of a sudden we'd go on tour and we start playing with these bands, and all of a sudden people started to give a fuck because they'd see us like do that. I'd be like, fuck you.
Once people not in that area began to care, then suddenly it's okay to give a damn. Yeah.
Which is like the most classic Canada thing.
It's a familiar story. It's not just Canada, my guy.
Okay.
That's a pretty common tale almost everywhere. It's sort of like, oh, okay, maybe there is something here. I thought they were just a bunch of nerds. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's just one of those things where it's like people all of a sudden just started seeing that like the shows are getting better, or we were playing house shows, or like first of 4 on a cool bill or something. And so
where's the first place you guys travel to that you really connect with, that you're like, oh.
That's a great question, because the answer is Minneapolis.
Very good. It's a good place for noisy music.
It is. I often tell people, and I'll say this because I saw Greg Obis from Stuck posting about this the other day, where he's like, there is no Stuck without Landowner, and for me, there is no Tunic without Condominium and Animal Lover. Those are the 2 biggest influences ever to me on anything I've ever made. And Tunic was straight. I own 2 copies of Guilt.
Nice.
Like,
Great band. The thing that blew my mind with that band, and to my credit, I waited until they crashed at my place on tour in Oakland, and like I waited until we'd been hanging out for a while, and this was like, so how did you guys find this kind of music?
Yeah,
because I was so curious, because as younger cats, and they were younger then, right? That I was like, because you guys are great. I know how I found all the random ass stuff that I found, but I'm curious how you found it. And like it was interesting,
How did they find it? I am curious to how they like.
I don't even remember the answer. I just remember that I respectfully decided to wait a couple hours in the conversation and have it. To be fair, we were also leaving on tour the next day ourselves.
Right.
But it was a very ordinary story, but it was like, of course.
Yeah. And so we played a bunch of shows. Like Addison did a bunch of shows for us when we first crossed over. Like the first time that we ever went over was in, I think, maybe 2014. and Minneapolis was the best show. It's just one of those places that we've continued to play. It's I consider it to be really like our hometown. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like we play to just as many people there as we do in Winnipeg. Like we sell more merch there than at home, and it's just been one of those places that's always been very good to us, and it's really been the first place that ever really connected with us. So it was always a great way to start a tour or end a tour, taking how we're 8 hours north. So
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the perspective of, you know, all the different areas and markets to play, like, you know, it's actually not that bad.
no, it's incredible.
Other than the border, you know.
Yeah, and we actually recorded with Matt from Condominium. Disappointment was
Nice.
was actually intended to be a full length record, and we recorded a full length with Matt, and then we trimmed it. We didn't do anything with it for like 6 months. We were just like, I'm busy. We're going to school. Something, you know, and
all
so,
this life is happening.
Yeah, but like what life? We're like 22 years old. You know what I mean? Like life is happening now. I have a mortgage and.
Yeah, but it seems like everything seems very busy when you're.
Yeah, and you're poor, and you don't, like, you know, you work part time, and you're like, oh, I'm working so much. You're working like 25 hours a week or something.
Yeah, it's real hard. Yeah.
Really. And so we just didn't do anything with it, and then we just decided, like, 7 of these songs are bad. We should just put out 4 of them, and so then it became a 7-inch. But yeah, that we made that with Matt, which was awesome. And so, like, you know, like Boss, the song is very much just me trying to write, like, I think it's called Redemption Song or something by Condominium. Like, it's just, you know, and
your version of that kind of.
Yeah, well, and the song on the first record that Tunic has, there's a song called Evan, which we named Evan after Evan from Animal Lover because it sounds like something that he would write on bass. That's the whole reason it's called Evan.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
So it's just like those, you know, Minneapolis is everything to us. It's like, you know, and I don't know if those guys know that. Like, I've never met anyone in Condominium except for Matt, and like I haven't seen Addison or, you know, those guys in a long time. So
that makes 2 of us. Yeah, I mean, somebody asked recently, and I was like, I don't know where those guys are at, but I don't know.
My buddy Wes in Minneapolis, who lived with Addison and Evan, they went to LA. They went to go see a band. I can't remember who it was, but they went, like, just recently. He was telling me that, and so I was like, okay, he's around, he's doing stuff, that's cool. But it's just like, you know, when we recorded in Minneapolis, we stayed at Addison's house for a week.
Nice.
Like, but that's also, again, like, I would never let some random band stay at my house for a week now as a grown up. But like,
that's definitely young man stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We're like, it's fine, whatever. Who cares? That's I've definitely done the same. I did the same thing when I had like a studio apartment. I was like, yeah, whatever, no big deal. Fit all 3 of you in there. I think the Oxes did that with me. They watched my bootleg VHS collection for like 2 days. And
yeah. I remember they had the Simpsons channel, so we watched the Simpsons. That was
nice.
a big thing. It was the 4th of July. I think we did 4th of July at their house once.
Nice, awesome, coming up soon too. So talk to me. So you mentioned all these early these early records and the 7 inches and whatnot. Talk to me about Exhaling.
Sure.
Like putting that together. Like what's the thought process with that? What, you know, how do you come to do it? Just tell me everything about that, because I think that's interesting.
That's a great question, because it sort of came out of necessity, maybe.
Right.
So we did our first record, Complexion, in 2000. It came out in 2019. I believe we recorded in 2017. We put it out on a label called Self Sabotage, named that ironically, which was our buddy Steve, who, you know, Steve Pike from Exhalants and Porcelain. He was working there, and he was the one that sort of put us on that. And so we put out that record. That label started to shut down by not paying its employees, and everyone sort of jumped ship, and it got pretty ugly. They started to still sell copies of our debut record on Bandcamp or on, you know, Shopify or whatever, and not send them. And so then people were messaging me being like, where's my copy of this record? I bought it. Here's my receipt. And I was like, oh my God. So I don't have a copy of that record. I had like 4 personal copies, and I mailed them all to people who paid and never got it. So I was just like, I ate the shipping costs, and I sent them out, and I was just like, here you go. Like, and so then when we signed with Artoffact, the conversation with Artoffact started, I guess, March of 2020. So it was like we were in the thick, like it just started.
Okay. Yeah.
And so like we were at home, and I was like, no, I really we're sitting on Quitter. Quitter's done.
Yeah.
I don't really I don't really want to do this record. It was March, and he's like, well, we can do it in September. I'm like, I don't think we're ready to, March 20.
Yeah, it'll be over by then.
Yeah, and I was like, no, let's not do it. Like, I didn't believe it. And he was like, let's do it. And I was like, no, let's wait. I'm saying fall 2021.
I booked a whole nother tour. I'm like, all right, it'll definitely be over by July.
Yeah.
Dumb.
Yeah. and so we talked to them, and then so we actually signed because of this terrible situation with self-sabotage and selling these records. We had no contract. We had nothing. And so when we signed to Artoffact, I said, can we give you the back catalog if you reissue it? Right. And so they said, yes, of course. And so
get all that stuff that people basically can't get anymore in a format that they can get it.
And and to be honest, we ended up having to send a cease and desist to self-sabotage and via bank. Like we went into Bandcamp and we're like, they don't own this, they're selling this is now owned by this, and so that got taken down. And I never really heard from Richard, the man who ran the label, since, and I don't really know what's going on with him, but and so essentially it's like all this stuff is sold out, people like it, people still ask about it.
And let's put it bluntly, it's another thing to sell too for people when they're trying to keep the ship moving.
and it was something to sort of introduce us on the label, keep us busy during the pandemic without touring. We had 3 new songs that we that got cut from Quitter: Fade Out, Exhaling, and whatever the other song was.
I don't have it in front of me, otherwise
no, I know.
I could probably look at it.
I think it's invalid. Maybe it's invalid. And so then we just put that out, and we did that, and it sort of just bought us some time and allowed us to sort of just see what working with Artoffact is like. It was a 2-record deal, so it was Exhaling and Quitter, with an option to do a third, which we did. We did Wrong Dream, and so it was just sort of a way to make something and have something to fuel the flames and to have fodder for the career and to keep us busy during the pandemic. And I also started to just spend a bunch of time online learning about social media and digital marketing during that time. And so it was kind of just a way for me to test the things I was learning on the internet.
Yeah, putting it in action.
Yeah, and seeing how it goes. And it turns out that a bunch of people, we got on some Spotify playlists, a bunch of people found us. I'm pretty sure that's how John E. from John found us, it was just from that. Yeah, so that's how we decided to do that. And it was just to buy time waiting to do Quitter, and sort of reintroducing the band on a potentially grander scale, if you will.
Right, because you've kind of opened up a hole for you guys just by doing it. Just by being out there. People are like, what's that Tunic band? What's that? By the way, congratulations. I always congratulate every band that has a 1-word band name.
Oh, thank you.
Especially when it's easy to remember and passes the drunk people at a bar test.
Oh yeah, it's my joke is always that we should have been a doom metal band, like Tunic is
it does. It has some D&D sort of connotations. Yeah, sure.
I took it from the Sonic Youth song.
Yeah. That was the first thing I thought of. And I was
good. Thank you.
But then, of course, I'm whatever. I think the Gestalt entity of Lee and Thurston is one of my favorite guitar players of all time. So.
And I just mean that's what I wanted Tunic to sound like. I wanted Tunic to sound like Sonic Youth when I made it, and so. We should be playing with Electric Wizard. You think that's
right, Bongzilla,
yeah, it's Bongzilla, Tunic, Electric Wizard, and we should be it's just one of those things where it's no, sorry, man,
no, we don't sound like that.
We don't even look actually Tomas kind of looks like that, but none of us, Dan and I, don't look like that.
Tomas could, if you're just going based on someone's looks, I suppose. Absolutely. Yeah. So then what's the writing process and when you record? I was actually surprised when Wrong Dream came out, because I was like, when do they have time to do that?
Oh yeah.
Because it seemed like you guys were just relentless for that.
Yeah. So the thing is that we put out records a year and a half after we make them.
Yeah.
So we have we have a full record made written and are starting to record it like right when the other thing comes out. So like Quitter was recorded in January of 2020.
Yeah.
And it didn't come out till fall of 2021 question mark. And so in that time frame I wrote all of Wrong Dream, and we went to the studio to track Wrong Dream 2.5 months after Quitter came out.
Sure.
And so the writing process for everything but Wrong Dream and all the new stuff we're writing and the Bummer record, which we can obviously talk about at some point.
I was waiting for that one, but yeah.
Yeah, of course. Not a fucking day of my life goes by where someone doesn't DM us on Instagram or every show we ever play.
Yo.
It's like, yo, what's up with that Bummer record? I was like, yeah, man. Anyways,
we'll get to it. We'll get to it,
we'll
people.
Get to it,
yeah, later in the episode.
And so, typically just started with a riff that I would come in, or two riffs. And
do you do demoing ahead of time, or is it?
For everything except for Wrong Dream, no. Wrong Dream, yes. And we would just sort of jam the riffs in the room and be like, let's slam these two parts together. Let's slam these three parts. What's the third part that shows up? Maybe I'll just do a noise solo and you keep playing the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, like all that early stuff is very just like ham-fisted punk rock, like as fast as possible sort of internal instinct stuff, which is cool and I like it. But then all of Wrong Dream I wrote on this computer that I'm talking to you on, and
multifaceted device.
Yeah, it does everything.
It does everything. These computers. Yeah.
You
heard of these, Paul? Yeah.
My mom was like, "Why are you always on the computer?" I'm like, "Well, because it's also my TV and it's also
it does everything in my life."
Yeah.
If you could refrigerate food, I would do that too. Yeah.
Yeah, breathe for me. And then Wrong Dream, I originally tried to write. Actually, during the pandemic, so I was unemployed. Canada had an incredible sort of pandemic funding where if you lost your job to COVID, you got $2,000 a month.
Yeah. I was gonna say you had a social safety net. Oh yeah, that sounds nice.
Yeah. And so I was just chilling at home, and because I was booking and owning a bar that was very much closed, and I lost my job multiple times and owned a business that was up in the air, and who knows what was going to happen to it. So that was really cool. And so I would just write every day. I would just my partner would go to work and I would go to work in the basement, and I would just play music for 5 to 6 hours a day and just work on songs until I started. And then on the other part of the day, I would take I took a bunch of online YouTube guru shit to sort of teach me a new skill, and then eventually I turned that into a business because now I do digital marketing as my day job.
I guess I literally thought you were spiritual guru for a second.
Oh no!
I was like, oh, they got everything on the YouTube, huh?
No. It was all just YouTube guru bullshit. Where this doesn't help me. This does help me, and I just learned how Facebook Ads Manager worked and all that stuff, and now I do that. But. Yeah, so I just worked and demoed, and I probably wrote maybe 2.5 to 3 solo records. Where I'm I'm gonna write a solo record.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna write a record that's just bass guitar and keyboard, because I'm not good at keyboard or any keyed instrument, and bass. Let's go back to my original love of bass guitar.
Right, your instrument that kind of brought you to it.
Yeah, and also so much muscle memory on guitar where I'm just I should do this. I should make this bad sound. I know that if I put my fingers like this,
it makes this noise. Yeah.
Yeah, and so actually the song "Whispering" that's on was the first single on Wrong Dream was one of those songs. It was one of those songs. It was a bass and keyboard song originally. And so then I wrote all these songs and I would show them to my buddy Drew, or who I just trust and has a great musical taste. He's like, yeah, these are all great, but these are Tunic songs. These are just Tunic songs where you replace the guitar with keyboard. And I was like, no. And then he's like,
it's totally different, bro.
Yeah. And then he's he would pick up the guitar and he would play the lead riff I wrote on keyboard on. I was like, oh fuck, that's it. And so I wrote all these songs, and then we just started maybe I have about 40 of them.
Yeah.
And then we just started calling through them and being like, this is bad, this is good. And I would and then eventually people started to hang out, and Roy wasn't in the band anymore, and so Dan would come over and we would just jam in my basement, and then Wrong Dream was 100% demoed and like worked on totally different than the ham fisting of the previous records. It's just like riff A, riff B, riff C.
Yeah.
Whereas in like Wrong Dream has some real proper production and like went through a couple phases. Like each song
like
had,
almost
like,
pre-production with people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
very much so. Where like I did 3 different vocal takes, 3 different styles of vocal takes to each thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then Drew would take my vocals and splice up the best of each.
Oh, yeah, vocal comp. But it's interesting doing vocal comp with like different delivery, different delivery
exactly.
Style.
So like I would just be like in my basement alone. I'd be like, okay, well, let's try it if I phrase it like this, or if I did it like this, and then he would just like, I'd email it to him and he would email it back. And actually, we did that like in Machines with Magnets, like before Seth showed up. He'd be like, let me comp, like, you know, it's like, okay, you should say those words like this. You should say that phrase. That's actually catchy. That's bad. And so like, it was the first time that I've really worked with anyone like at that level, which is what I wanted. So
yeah, it's kind of a head trip when you first do it. You're like, wait, what? And you got to kind of rewire your brain a little bit to think, okay, all right, so that's like that now. Okay.
Yeah, and I just wanted to get out of my norm of delivering vocals and not just screeching. And you know, I love the body, but I just mean I don't need to screech the whole time. And
sure.
Yeah,
peace and love. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I do love the body. I literally just saw them
a week
ago today.
But not everybody should sound like that too. You know?
No. And so I just wanted to have a more diverse vocal range. I wanted the record to be more diverse. I wanted the record to be maybe a little more quote unquote mature, if you will. And with Rory leaving the band, and being my songwriting partner, I love Dan, but Dan plays drums, and so I needed someone to sort of just musically bounce ideas off and sort of help me grow the arrangements. And so Drew sort of like came in and was like, I'll play bass. He was the Bob Rock, if you will. If this is our Saint Anger, he was Bob Rock.
Yes. Luckily, without that Saint Anger snare sound.
Yes, or just the songwriting or the lyrics, right?
Or the whole Bob Rock nature of it, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
He looks so dejected about not being the person that they picked. It's like, what on what planet do you think that like this would have been like a permanent arrangement, dude? Like,
I love that movie. It's incredible.
It's astounding. I mean, it's a real life Spinal Tap. Like, truthful, but like, no, I talk about it any given opportunity.
Good. My favorite part of the movie was when they're like, that was a pretty good day in the studio, and they've only been there for a couple hours, and then it cuts to them on jet skis.
Yeah, they're all so great. And it's got the Presidio like just booked for like, you know, months. Just like, oh yeah, whatever, money to burn. Okay.
You know, but yeah, so Drew really helped shape all that stuff, and like, he'd be like, okay, so who, like, let's talk frankly. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, who are you trying to rip off here?
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, well, I always kind of envisioned that this was more of like a Jehu part, or maybe more of a like, you know. And he'd be like, okay, well, Jehu would never do it like that. And so like he would just be like, that's not what I hear, and that's what you hear as the writer, but that's as me
as like, a listener, you're not hearing that same thing. You're not getting those same vibes or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. And so he'd be like, if you wanted to have that vibe, you need to do this. If you wanted to have that vibe, you need to do like. And so like it was just sort of one of those really amazing. Like it's one of those things where the singles that, I guess it's just one single, Doll Lake, he recorded and produced as well, and we have 2 more that he's produced and recorded that we're going to put out, and we're making another record in the fall, and because we have to, because I'm a masochist, I guess. And
it's the law. Yeah,
and it's the law. And so Drew's not playing on it, but he'll be there every day working with us on it. So
nice. Okay, so with these change up in writing and recording, like what kind of lessons have you taken away from that? Like what? Any?
Oh yeah, so many. I mean, like, never make a record with someone who had their first baby 2 weeks ago. I love Seth. I loved working with Seth, but he literally had a 2-week-old baby, and he was so tired. And
I was gonna say, like, you're lucky if he's awake.
Like, he would just walk in and be like, "All right, everybody in the room, let's go."
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I'm just like, I feel for the guy, and I thank God that he said yes.
Yeah.
Like, he actually told me I was the first person that knew that they were pregnant because I emailed him the day that they found out that they were pregnant.
Just have serendipity there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so like I was like, I want to book this studio time with you 9 months from now.
Yeah.
And he was like,
9 months, huh?
Yeah, he's like, this is a nice email. You're really cool. And then he just called me and was like, hey, listen, I'm gonna have a kid right around there. You know what I mean? Like
right on practically on the day, yeah.
And he's just like, so yeah, I'm down, but like just a heads up. And I was like, okay, cool. So no, like you know, not to shit talk, you know, I don't actually have any negative feelings towards Seth at all. He's incredible.
Oh no, sure. Yeah, but it is just from a sheer perspective of what your body is capable of when you're put through that level of
I just feel bad for him. I feel bad that like I was the person that was like, yeah, do this, come here, go away from your baby, like, you know,
yeah.
And like there was a COVID wave happening, and we went to the METZ pre-op fact show in Boston, and he's like, if you give my baby COVID, I'm gonna fucking punch you in the dick. Like, you know, like it was like
right, which is reasonable. Yeah, okay,
yeah.
fair. Yeah, fair.
And so I mean, like, and also that you don't, like, you can actually take time to write songs. And I know that's funny because I go into the studio once a year to make a record, but you can actually
can you? Yeah,
you can.
Turns out no one will stop you from doing
yes,
it.
Yeah. And so, like, it turns out that studios are just businesses and don't take anyone. Yeah.
Don't let anyone in. Don't let anyone make a record.
And so
you heard some of these bands anyway.
You heard of my own band.
Yeah.
And so just that, yeah, like take the time to make the record and really just like think honestly about what you want to make. Like I used to be like, we just got to go. And because it was like we were on tour all the time. So it's like, we only have 3 months to write and record. Like,
yeah, just get them down and go.
Yeah. And now I'm just like, no, like, and then when my mind sort of flipped that I was like, no, you have to make good art that people will actually want to engage with. And so let's focus on writing the best songs possible.
Well, and then, oh, good.
No, I was going to say it's funny because a lot of people are like, some of this new stuff isn't very good. I'm like, I actually worked really hard on that. A lot harder than some of the old stuff.
Yeah, they like the stuff that's more dashed off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and so then when it comes down to putting together the live set, how do you pick what you pick? Like what do you pull from that's like the stuff you're more excited about versus like stuff you think people might want to hear, like whatever stuff you're promoting at the time?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, Dan makes all of our set lists because Dan, bless their heart, they are like such a non-binary dork music person. Like where they like
that's the best person to make the set list. Yeah.
Like they used to like when they were like maybe like 11 or 10, they talk about how like they would like make a playlist of like my dream Metallica set, my dream Slayer set, and like it would be like, and they would just like, and so like for them that's just been like something that they do, and I was like, great, do the set list then, and I'll tell you if it feels good when we practice it. And so we just wanted to make sure that we played songs that people wanted to hear, and we also wanted to make sure that the set rocked, to be honest, like especially with some of that some of that new stuff doesn't rock as hard as the old stuff,
right?
But we still want to give people a rock show because at the end of the day we're a rock band. And so you know, we played like each single from the new record along with a couple other songs I feel like from the new record, and then we played a bunch of singles from the back catalog. And we you know, I'll be honest, I have no desire to play Disappointment ever again in my life, but
just burned on it.
Oh yeah, I just mean like, to be honest, it's become like a huge, like I don't even want to practice it. I don't even want to, like, it's just like one of those things where I'm like, we have to do it, we'll do it, I'm happy to do it, it's fun in the moment, but like I've been playing that song for like 8-9 years.
Yeah, it's not, it's, you know, what is it, just like we're saying, right? You can't miss someone if they don't go away.
Yeah.
You can't miss a song if you don't.
But I mean, like, you know, and like Radiohead doesn't play Creep, but they should, you know.
Yeah,
like,
right. Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm just like, I'll play Disappointment. It's fun. I love watching like anywhere from 5 to like 150 people yell that back at me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like we've done some dumb stuff now, like, and we'll do it in soundcheck. We haven't done a show yet, but like when it goes to the guitar break, like before the band comes in, like I'll play Red Hot Chili Peppers riff instead or something like, you know, like I'm like,
riff roulette.
Yeah, or like I'll do it with Tomas where we go one word for each other. So it's like I am a constant. Or we'll do vowels.
Okay.
Like on vocal delivery to just like try and keep it interesting for me.
Yeah, just keep it engaging for someone's intimately familiar with it. Yeah,
and I just mean for me, but I mean like so we still got to play. I want people to have a good time, and I'm always bummed out when bands don't play like the songs that I want them to play or whatever.
It's like only the new record, or it's only whatever.
Yeah, and I'm just like, no, I want you to hear the old stuff that you want. I made it. It's fun. Also, I also still have to sell that stuff. So like,
copy's still available. Yep.
So when people are like, oh, what song is this from? Or like, what has the most songs? Like, well, guess what? Exhaling's got like 25 songs.
Yeah, well, if that's what you're looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, this record is like Wrong Dream. That only has 9 songs. I could buy this record for the same price as 25 songs. And you're like, yeah, sure. So,
well, it's interesting too when you're a band that's been around for a bit, that like you don't necessarily know what's going to float and what's going to sink.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and there's songs that you're like, oh, this is it, everyone, this is the one, and everyone's like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so it's like one of those things where we have to make calls. I actually just heard of a guy who I know through work who just did like his first proper U.S. headline tour. He's like a folk singer, and he was playing like he was doing anywhere from like 200 to 500 cap rooms, but like he's like one of those like Spotify core guys, like where he's just like
sure, yeah,
like he just has like 12 million streams on like one song, and he like put out a new record, and by the end of the tour they were only playing like 1 to 2 songs off the new record, and everyone just like literally they just played like their like top 8 Spotify songs, and I was like, man, that kind of sucks.
Wow. That's demoralizing.
Yeah.
That's the living jukebox right there is what that is.
Yeah, and it really bummed me out.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank God I play in heavy music, because I wouldn't be able to do that.
No,
like,
you get laughed off the stage, I mean, but wow, that's horrible. I'm sorry, not to pass judgment.
No,
that's
that's
horrible.
hey, it's like I really like the guy. I think that the art he makes is valid, and like but I'm just like that's also playing in a world that's it's like fast fashion, like it's just like it's so like right now, everything in the moment, and I'm like, and we don't make music like that. We occupy we all occupy a space that's totally different than that, and like where streams don't mean anything because we still sell physical, and like it's just
Kiss is not going to skip Detroit Rock City,
Yeah. So,
there'd be an actual riot if they did,
Yeah. And so it's just like, and so it was funny because Dan was always like, oh, I just kind of thought that some of these songs from the set, like that I found like that were my personal favorites, like Dry Heave and Evan.
Yeah.
Where I was like, we don't need to play these anymore. And Dan was like, oh, we don't? I just thought those were like untouchables. I'm like, well, no, like Evan's not a single. It's from 2-3 records ago at this point. Like we don't, like we need to cater to what people want to hear.
Yeah, and there's a balance to it, right? I mean, obviously you're always excited to put the newest stuff is generally speaking what you're going to be most excited about, but there's also, you still like the older stuff too, but you don't want to be like chained to it, but.
No, and that's why I always appreciate when people are like 10 years of this tour. I'm like, hell yeah, I'll go to that. Or like 20 years of that, like actually I just tried listening to, right before jumping on this, I tried listening to the new Queens of the Stone Age because I haven't listened to a Queens of the Stone Age record. I haven't listened to a Queens of the Stone Age record since like Burn the Witch era, whatever that.
Lullabies Paralyzed.
Yeah. I've listened to it since that, and I was like, oh no, like I see people talking about this. And I like saw some people who like I thought were kind of like who I would consider to be like Dave Grohl, Foo Fighter lames, talking about how much they like the new Queens of the Stone Age. And I listened to like half of 3 songs, and I was like, this sucks. Like it's
fine. I mean, like sure.
There's a band I wouldn't go see now, but if they were like, here's songs for the Def tour, I'd be like, yeah, let's go. I'll be there. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just all I'm trying to say is that like.
My favorite record, one of my favorite records of theirs is one that almost everyone dislikes, which is Era Vulgaris, which is the one after Lullabies.
I thought that did okay.
But that one's everyone always, when they like rank the albums, it's always near to the bottom. And I'm like, that's one of my favorite ones, but it's also the weirdest one. Like it's also just kind of like there's the most kind of like weird things going on. But yeah, I don't know. This one kind of sounds like nothing to me. It's fine. I really didn't like the last one. I mostly hated the production. The one before that, like Clockwork, was pretty good, but it was definitely like, I mean, they're not going to make songs for the Death Part 2. You know?
No.
Nor should they. Good for them.
And also, like, I'm not going to be 13 years old ever again. Like,
Right.
you know, like for me, like
Precisely.
that was like, I was like, yeah, this rocks. This is like, you know, like that's also like as a time and place thing. And I was like, this is cool.
And you'll always have that record, you know, to go back to, and it'll you can maybe find something new about it, and they can, good on them. Like it's like Iggy Pop, man. Like he can make all the butt towns in the world. He's still the dude from the Stooges, you know.
I just did. I just did a podcast.
Butt town.
I think what did I do? I guess I did that on Tuesday, where I talked about the second Weezer record, the whole thing, where I was like, this record rocks. It's a great record. I love it. It's extremely cringe now, but it's still very good. And like
lyrically, it's harsh toke, but musically, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and like they never made anything that good ever again, and like
they never made anything listenable as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, that's like I was like,
or it's too listenable. It's the other way around.
Yeah, I get scared. Also, I get scared after a band makes like a perfect record where I'm like, I don't want to listen to another record by this band because this one's so good. Like Jailbreak by Thin Lizzy. I'm like, what a perfect record. Yeah. I don't need to try another Thin Lizzy record because this one is 100% good and I'll just be disappointed. And like, there definitely is other good Thin Lizzy records.
They're actually pretty consistent, but Johnny the Fox, is not as good of a record as Jailbreak. You know?
Yeah.
If you're
so that's
judging them against, like, it's practically a perfect record, right? I mean, I think. What do you like? The Ramones, like Leave Home, is like at parity with the first record for me. But like, it's rare. it's a rare thing.
But then there's some bands that like consistently put out great records all the time. Like I love Big Brave. Every time Big Brave puts out a record, I'm like, I'm gonna listen to this. This rocks.
Yep.
It's good, and I'm content. Like,
yeah, and I think there's, you know, and it's a weird. Like, you know, there are some acts that, like, you never need to make another record. It'd be fine.
Yeah.
You could just do this for forever, and you seem to be happy doing it. But they do it anyway, and you're like, all right, cool, right on. You know, I get it.
Like, who is it who keeps making records who doesn't need to make records? Everyone, pretty much. But, like, there are some...
yeah, well, if you get to take that attitude.
No, like someone like the Foo Fighters.
Oh, the Foo Fighters. Yeah, dude, come on. There's at least, like, 4 of those records they'd be like, oh, yeah, that record happened, didn't it?
And Metallica too. Going back to Metallica, it's like no one wants this.
Nobody's looking for it. It's fine. No,
like,
you don't need to do this. Or like do like a song or an EP or something.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
you don't need to make a whole record. Nobody wants a whole fucking record of this shit. Come on.
No, you can still make a new. You're a clothing brand. You're for Walmart now. Like
you're a lifestyle 360 brand. Yeah.
Yeah. Just make a new shirt or something. I don't know. Like.
We're going on a world tour of this new shirt.
I mean, like you know.
But I see what you're saying, which is that, like, yeah, like band like that, like but also they just like making records. They didn't have to do that weird record they made with Lou Reed either.
That's true, and
I didn't like it, but like
it killed him, but.
Yeah, exactly. But like I was like, oh, like I actually had a lot of respect for them for doing that, but I also would have had more respect for them if they had someone around to be like, hey, this could be good, but let's like change this, not do that, maybe not be the table here lyrically, you know, like like a few, just a no guy in the room, or you know,
they needed Lars's dad.
Lars's dad.
To reference Saint Anger again.
Yes. I have a sticker that says, I would say delete that, and it's got a picture of Lars's dad. And it's But I mean, not to trash talk Metallica. They're an easy target.
I'm fine to trash talk Metallica.
But they don't need to do any of that. But like the one record that they have made in recent history that I was like, wow, kudos for them, was like doing the Lou Reed record. Not because I like it, but it's just like, this is a pretty bold swing. Like I did not expect that at all. I did not have that on my bingo card.
That's how I feel even about like the Boris Uniform record.
Right.
Or I'm just
sure. Yeah. We're like, what?
I was like, cool. This
right on. Okay.
I was like, this is just riffs. This is just killer riffs. Like, so.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. So speaking of weird collaborations, what's up with that Bummer record?
I don't know.
So I send it to you in a DM.
No, it's fine. We just saw Matt in Kansas.
Yeah.
Matt Perrin from Bummer.
Yeah. How's he doing? I haven't talked to him in a while.
He's good. He's good. He was bummed that night, but he's fine now. I know that Tomas just saw him on tour when Tomas was just on tour with a new metal band for some reason. But yeah, I know. But yeah, so I don't know. Probably not. Like, it's done. It's mastered. It's finished.
Yeah.
But we talked about it, and we're just like, maybe not. I don't know. Like, it really was, it really was a bummer because, like, they didn't know they were going to break up.
No, not at all. They were running hot, man. Yeah.
And we were going to, we had plans. Like, we wrote it together in the room. No riffs written beforehand. No one was allowed to bring anything premeditated. And so, like, we spent 50 hours in a room together just, like...
grinding it out.
Yeah. Or someone would just, like, someone play something.
Yeah.
And, like, write a song from that. And so that was how we made it. And we wrote all the vocals, like, essentially, like, 2 days before we all got together to record it and decided who was going to sing on what song. And... it was really fun, and I had a blast making it with those guys. Those guys are hilarious, and it was I've never laughed so hard in my life. It was also a crazy experience just to do something like to be honest, I had met Matt for maybe 20 seconds.
Wow. But internet, right? So
yeah, internet, yeah, exactly.
And you guys are playing the same things, and
yeah, exactly. And so we had only been in Matt and I had only been in the same room. Shook hands for 20 seconds at Mortimer's once when he saw Charlie XTX, then he saw Tunic, and then he saw Buildings all on the same night. I remember that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know. Originally, I would tell people yes, but now I don't know if it will come out, and it's annoying because I paid for all of it. And it was also just it's a bummer because in the grand scheme of things, it would have been really cool to put on Thrill Jockey and. We were going to tour it because we made it as a live record and
then you have a chance to throw some of those songs in the set and do some kind of cool
exactly
cross-pollination. Yeah. I
mean, Tomas sings lead on one song, I sing on 4 and Matt sings on 5 and Tomas sings lead on 1. And so it was really fun and dumb. And the thing is that I'll be honest with you, it's dumb. It's a super dumb record. I make a point in Tunic not to play power chords.
Right.
But then in the Tunic Bummer record, I'm like, boom, let's go.
Yeah, power chord city, baby. Let's go.
Let's do a breakdown. Matt, play us, do some pinch harmonics. Let's go. It's just one of those things where, since it wasn't a Tunic record, since it wasn't a Bummer record, we could just,
frees you up to try different things that maybe you wouldn't feel like doing if you're making a mission statement record or something.
Yeah, exactly. And it was really fun to do, and it was awesome. And I'm glad, I'm glad I had that experience. But yeah, I don't know what will happen with it. It's completely finished. It's mastered. It was done before the band broke up. And to be honest, I've actually heard the Bummer record that's never going to see the light of day, and it is exquisite.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been privy, but it's the most fucking gnarliest thing they've ever done, and it sounds like they hate each other. It sounds awesome.
Well, and it's definitely it's a band that just split up at the peak of their power too, where it's man, I feel just I don't know, just don't tour for a year and do a couple shows or something. Find a way to make it work. But yeah, they didn't.
I mean, respect to all those people, and
it's their band, their decision.
Yeah, I had a great time working with them.
Yeah.
I've never laughed so hard. Watching Sam play drums is incredible. He's such a talented, such a great drummer. And to be honest, Sam was only there for maybe 4 hours of the 50 that we were together. But and Sam didn't play on the record actually either. He didn't make it up to track it. But it's yeah, I mean, we all went to a restaurant on the last night, and the 6 of us sat there, and I peed my pants laughing from this fucking shit that they were saying. It was incredible. It was a lot of fun.
It's a shame, man. It's a shame when good bands break up in general, but it's more of a shame when there's a lot of unreleased material that maybe doesn't make the sense to see the light of day when it can't be promoted through touring, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, like, it was something that, like, we planned as Tunic, as the three of us, to add at least one of those songs to our set as, like, something to, like, as, like, just like, oh, that'd be fun if we could just do this. And we're like, yeah, it would be, like, toss it in there, have it on the merch table. And now we're just like, oh, well.
Yeah, we played that one. We played something after that.
Yeah. But anyways, that's what's going on with that. We'll make another one. I want to make another collab record with someone. I don't know with who. I want to make, to be honest, I want to make a collab record with, like, someone who makes nice music. Who makes pretty music.
Interesting. So, like, maybe, like, outside of the genre, if you will.
Yeah. But not that converged Chelsea Wolf, not that. But
right. That's kind of extreme example. Yeah, but
like, it'd be cool if, like, Tunic made a record with, like, you know, I guess it's like the Emma Ruth Rundle Thou sort of, like,
there's some precedent for it, sure.
Something cool like that, where some singer songwriters like, can you be my backing band? I'll be like,
yeah.
You want me to ruin your songs? Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Let's go.
Yeah.
Follow your bliss.
Yeah.
So it's not, you know, brand new or anything, but, you know, Wrong Dream's still pretty new to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to do the thing? And I do this often with the new records when they come out, where we just kind of go through each of the songs on the record, and you can tell me a little about it, like where the song title comes from, you know, maybe like any ideas on recording, lyrics, yada yada yada, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure, I would love. That would be fun. I'm happy to do that.
Cool. Yeah, some people really, nobody's ever told me no, but some people definitely are more comfortable with it than others, and like I always ask.
I don't care.
It can yield some interesting results, so it's a good time. So let's pull it up, and okay, so Sounds repeats the first song.
Is it the first song? I thought the first song was Punishment Enough.
Isn't it?
What is it?
Let me pull it up.
I can't remember either. I thought it was.
I'm gonna pull it up so I don't go off of memory here. Okay, hold on. I got stuff in my cart. Okay. No, yeah, Sounds repeat. Punishment Enough is second.
Oh no, I didn't know that. Look at that. That's embarrassing for me.
That's pretty amazing that you didn't know.
This is how connected I am to this record.
Right.
Okay, Sounds repeat. Sick course. I'm going to be honest. What a hell of a course. I love it.
Yeah.
One of the very cool things I wrote on guitar. Rory originally wrote the bass riff because I begged Rory to come back and write with Dan and I.
Yeah.
And there's only two remaining of whatever that, three remaining, whatever that one product is. Shout it out.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. And I'm curious I only has 3 remaining, but.
Yeah, I know it was a cool song. Drew really made the.
The test pressing, that makes sense.
Don't buy Tunic test pressing. That's weird. Makes me uncomfortable. What are you going to use?
People
that
like
for?
it though. People like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Sounds repeat. Great chorus, very fun to play. Live, we add. That's okay. We don't need. Live,
wrong button.
Live, we add like a additional section, like the end of the song. The song lyrically is extremely sad. And it is about my friend who essentially drank himself to death. He was an old roommate of mine and a very close friend, and was actually he lived at this punk house, and he had acute pancreatitis, which means that you essentially need to stop drinking, but he could not. So the song is, like Sounds repeat, your voice is lost. Like you let it win, you let it take you. That's what that song is about, and it's funny because I'm like, this is a sad song, and the song is about like me finding out that he passed and sort of just like reflecting on his memory, and it's funny playing it every night because I'm like, you think that this would make me sad, but it just makes me remember my friend. So it's actually
right.
It's actually really kind of like beautiful in the end of the day to be like, every night we play that song, I'm like, hey Kit, nice to see you.
There's that memory that's always going to be there.
Yeah, and it's positive. Like, he's a good friend of mine. I love the guy. So
you're remembering like the friendship and the good times, not necessarily the end, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So Punishment Enough, actually the second song.
Actually, the second song now. Punishment Enough, sure. Punishment Enough, originally just called Converge because because that riff, I think, is
because no reason.
No reason at all.
No reason at all.
No, but bands definitely don't do that. They definitely don't name riffs after who they sound like.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
Yeah, and if this was Chat Pile, it'd be like Corn 1, Corn 2, Corn 3, Godsmack.
Gods.
I've only ever met Austin from Chat Pile, but he's a wonderful man.
Yeah, they're all sweethearts, and they would certainly laugh at that too. So.
And I mean, all the power to them. Like I just mean that rocks. But dream scenario where you're like, ugh. Let's play in a band for fun. They're like, oh, crap. The world loves it.
Now it's really popular. How terrible. Yeah.
Now we got to leave our jobs and reverse engineer our lives to go back to as if we were 20.
How awful.
And so, you can only dream of that happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, Punishment Enough, Converge. I'm pretty sure I straight jacked that riff from Under Duress by Converge. The bridge was very much me trying to write some sort of Hot Snakesy Jehu
okay, I can see that. Yeah, totally.
thing. And the ending just sort of got made. So actually, Conan, I don't know if I've really even talked about this, but originally a handful of these songs, like I wrote them, Dan would sort of play something, and then before we had a bass player, we would bring different friends to like just come play bass.
Oh, okay.
And we'd be like, oh, it'd be cool to work with this person on this song, or work with this. And so we worked with our friend Neil, who's filled in for us a bunch of times on bass. And so Neil was the person who was like, the ending of the song should be like this halftime thing. And so we built it out, and then Drew came on and changed everything everybody wrote.
Yeah,
but
of course. Sure. But
and so like this song we worked with our friend Neil, who was someone who really wanted me to like converge when we were first became friends when I was like 16 and he was like 18 and was like, you should like this. I'm like, oh, I want to.
The Converge evangelist.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and I mean, the ending's really cool. It has a really nice falsetto by Drew. The ending of that song of the like lingers and stares and waits part is very much inspired by a Portrayal of Guilt song.
Oh, okay.
Where Matt does something sort of similar vocally, where it's like because the vocals match up with the guitar strumming, so it's just like that's where I got that idea from.
Nice. Disease is next.
Disease. I feel like I talk about this song the most. It's about capitalism and losing myself to capitalism, and for the first time ever in my adult life, not playing 100 shows a year and just sitting at home. And it actually always makes me think of a tweet that I saw by Monica, like Devin, who was in Speedy Ortiz, who said, "So this is normal life, huh? You people just sit here, work your job.
Talk about what streaming shows you're watching.
Yeah, so you just sit here at your job, and you don't make a record and release it to 50 people at Alphaville." And I was just like,
hard relatable.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, and so I always think about that tweet because I'm like, yeah, that's like, I too was experiencing for the first time ever, just like being sort of a drone. And I was starting a new business, and but it was just one of those things where I'm like, man, I just sit at a computer all day.
Yeah.
And I'm just working and learning and grinding it out. Originally, that song was supposed to be very, very slow. The original riff was like the intro riff was supposed to be like very inspired by like something like Big Brave or something like that. And then I guess I was like, I should just play this like 4 times as fast. And I was like, oh, that sounds really good.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it still works, right?
And then like bands that can't be named because they're terrible, but like terrible people, like it's very Daughters inspired. Chorus.
Yeah, what a bummer, man.
I mean, everyone knew shit happens.
I didn't know. I didn't know those guys at all, though.
I didn't know them
or
either,
anywhere
really.
near them.
But I just like, it was funny. We actually, all that came to light. We can talk about this later. Came to light literally after we just closed the van door and started driving out of Rhode Island right after finishing recording at Machines. Like, and Seth made all those records. He made the Lingua record. He made all the Daughters records, and he like knows all those. And we were just like Dan got in the van, was like, "Yo," and I was just all like, "Whoa!" Like, because every time we brought up Daughters, Seth would speak highly of some of them and not so highly of one of them particularly.
Yeah.
And not even speak of Alexi at all, to be honest. Like, we would bring up Alexi, and he would be like just silent and sort of just nod and be like, okay. But anyway, so that course of Disease is very much like a Daughters thing.
Just faster.
Yeah. And then, then there's just like some parts that rock in the middle, and, you know, the line is pretty like blatant of a disease unable to shake. Yeah. So that's what that song's about. It's fun to play. We play all three of those songs live. And we typically open with Punishment Enough because it's the newest song that sounds like all the older songs. So it just makes
you're
makes
looking for
happy.
that old stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
We got something that sounds like that old stuff for you. It sounds like this. My Body, My Blood.
My Body, My Blood. Slow song.
Yeah.
Also inspired.
That does not sound like the old stuff. Yeah.
No. Also inspired by Daughters, unfortunately. Or, I mean, good songwriting is good songwriting.
I mean, it's weird that we don't have the cultural lexicon to be able to appreciate the art in horrific situations like this and not have it be like awkward and terrible. It's sort of like, would you throw away your Neurosis records now? I mean,
I don't know. I was never a fan, so I wouldn't have them. But
well, my guy, I'm from Oakland, so Jason used to screen print our T-shirts. It's not an option for me.
And so, I mean, whatever. It's inspired by that band. It's not like, you know, I knew those things. I knew that like everyone, there was some, whatever. We don't need to go into this.
It's fine. It's not the time, nor the place.
No, it's June 2023. This is long past.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's pretty much July. So very much just sort of like trying to create like a dark groove, and sort of just have like a creepy lingerness to it. Drew was the person who pushed for that tremolo picking part.
Oh yeah.
That sort of just exists. The metal sheets that are hit on that were literally the last thing we recorded. We recorded it during mixing when we were like mixing the song, and Seth's like, "You know what this song needs?" And then then he was
clanging
like,
of metal.
he's like, "There's something. It's like something needs to take up some space here."
Yeah.
And like, he just like got it and was just like, "Dan, hit these on these beats now." And we were all like, "Seth, what do you want us to do?" And we're just like, he's like, "Just do it." And they're like, "Oh, that sounds really good. Thanks." And yeah, very much me doing a song that sounds like I have a bunch of ice cubes in my mouth.
Sure.
Lyrically, it's about like being put down, and sort of like both Punishment Enough and My Body, My Blood are about the same person who I used to own a bar with 7 other people, and by the end of my time at the bar, I was the GM and the booker, so the whole weight of the business was on my shoulders, and I was the youngest owner by anywhere from 7 to 15 years. And some of those, and they all voted to put me in charge. And then when I tried to be in charge, they all spoke down to me, or some of them spoke down to me and really treated me like shit. And so both those songs are sort of about dealing with that, and sort of like, you know, like, whereas like, you know, Punishment Enough is more so about that person and how that person acts and as that person as a figure. And whereas in My Body, My Blood is my, you know, how my anxiety responding to them, and my body, my blood, and being put down, and my body on the bottom. And, you know, like I could be anyone, but you'll still talk, like, you know, you'll talk down to anyone. That ending of that song was entirely jammed. Like that was just entirely just riffed. Like we like finished the song. We did like a 5-day writing session, where we each day we would work on 3 songs, and then 2 days later we would come back to them. So we'd do like an A, B, and C of them, where we'd be like, okay, I like that. And then the next day, like 2 days later, we'd come back to them and be like, okay, what do we not like about this version? Where do we think it can go now that we've had some time apart? And so we didn't have an ending for this. We're just like, this is a creepy, weird song. And I was like, I don't know if this fits. And both Drew and Dan were like, you should keep it. And then, yeah, we just finished the song once, and then Drew started playing like that riff on the bass. And then Dan just like did a fill in, and I was like, "Oh, gotta make noise," and then that was it.
Like, oh, we're doing noise now, okay?
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, the song's fast now, sure."
Yeah.
And so we play that live too. It's very fun. I hate tremolo picking. I'm not a very good guitarist, so Drew, I'm 99.9% that Drew plays all the tremolo picking on the record.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because I'm just like, ooh, I don't know. So
it's not your wheelhouse. It's fine.
No, not my wheelhouse. But is my monkeys, whatever that expression is. Not my circus, not my monkeys, but is my circus and is my monkeys. Do you not know that saying?
I've never heard of that.
Oh yeah,
that's before.
Yeah.
Is this a Winnipeg thing or what?
Maybe, sure.
got a lot of monkeys you need to have sorted out.
Oh, we got so many.
Whose circus is this? Clean it up.
Oh, we got so many circuses here, every corner. What's after that?
Protected is after that.
Oh, Protected, the slower song. We did a lot of slow songs on this record. Protected is a song about the literally just being protected is just about literally it's just very dumb because there's a song about Instagram and how everyday protected, immune from ourselves. You know what I mean? Like it's just about creating an image of yourself. And there's I think the cringiest lyric on that song. I should have just been naming the cringiest lyrics of every song on this.
If that floats your boat, sure, yeah.
There's a lyric there that's pixelated landscape, which just to me is just like the garbage of social media. And so that song is just really about that. And we dubbed the insane distortion that's on that song as we called it Sethify. It's like, can you just Sethify the ending? Because like if you listen to like The Body, like that
sure.
There's all these records where like, so it's like, oh yeah, that's just this thing, and I just turned this knob, and we're like, yeah, sounds great, do that.
Yeah, Sethify it. I thought it was like Semperfy, like Sethify.
No. No, it's very much like, Seth, can you just use that? Can you make that crazy distortion happen?
Yeah,
like,
can you do the thing on here? Thanks in advance.
Very hard song. This is the first record that we ever tracked to a click track, actually. Everything else was just live off the floor. Which, to be honest, recording to a click track is great because then you can go do overdubs, no problem, and everything's in time.
Yeah. No, it's kind of a game changer, isn't it?
Yeah.
I did that for the first time ever 2 years ago, and I was like, wow. Why haven't I been doing this my entire life? Like this is you get ideas about what it is. Oh, it's gonna take away all the feel of the no,
Steve Albini. It's actually okay to use. It's actually okay to use one. And so actually Protected, besides I guess My Body, My Blood and Punishment Enough, has like the biggest drastic tempo shifts.
Sure. Yeah.
And so like, and the hardest part was Course 2. Course 2, it slowly builds like about anywhere from 0 to, this is such a stupid thing to talk about, so I'm sorry for everyone who's listening.
This show excels in stupid things to talk about, so don't worry about it.
It goes up about anywhere from 7 to 12 BPM. Mm-hmm. And so like it was so hard to like have the click track going, playing guitar to it, then trying to sing it later and be like, everyday protected. Okay, now I sing that again, but now it's a little bit faster. And like, but I have to keep it cool.
Right. You don't want to sound like you're rushing though.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was
like,
really fun.
Like you're late to get to an appointment or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And to be honest, straight up, this song was like, we just called it Slint or Fax or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like what we called it.
It has those vibes. Sure.
Yeah. And I mean, that lead part, I wrote the bass and I wrote the ending and I wrote a lot of it, and Drew and I kind of wrote that guitar part together that I play, and yeah, it was fun to make, and it was like, for me, again, that's probably the scariest song, maybe indirect, but this is probably the scariest song that we made because it was just like so different and arty and yeah.
It definitely would, like, if it was on like one of the early records or something, you'd be like, same band? What's
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, really? Okay. Which isn't a bad thing, you know, like whatever. You're spreading out. So
We have to.
Whispering.
Whispering, very much inspired by. I like doing this. This is fun. Thank you.
Happy to do it. It's a lot. The nice thing about a podcast is that you have all the room in the world to talk about whatever you want. The bad thing about a podcast, you got all the room in the world to talk about anything you want. This I like, though. Yeah.
Yeah, this is fun. Whispering is very much, I hope I don't say this band's name wrong, that Wax Chattels band from New Zealand.
I've never heard it spoken aloud, so I wouldn't know.
But yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
I do, and there are some people from New Zealand that listen, so maybe they'll correct.
There we go. My apologies.
Let me know in the comments. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Kiwis. But yeah, bass. Originally, this is one of the songs I talked earlier in the podcast, like it was originally keyboard and bass.
Yep.
Yeah,
which is pretty funny.
and then Drew just picked up the guitar and was like, "Is this what you're playing on the keyboard?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "That sounds." I was like, "Fuck." And then so like, I wrote it all on like a Casio SK1.
Yeah.
Which is like, you know, the classic.
The classic, yeah.
And I just ran it through like my whole pedal board to make it sound super blown out, and like we recreated my demo, all my demo sounds in the studio because everyone liked how much the keyboard sounded on my demo, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Which is like, I was like, oh, I did something right. Yeah. Like, you know, like, well, here we are. Whispering is kind of just all lyrically about all sorts of things. Like, it's not like, it's kind of just like a mismatch of words about a whole slew of topics that make its way on the record, you know, about that guy being a dick to me, about my friend passing away. Like, it's just sort of like it's like sort of just like an everything song. When you're trying to just find words.
Yeah. Which is hey, that's it. It's songwriting, right? That's it's allowed.
We play it live also. It was very scary to be single one of this record. It was everyone was like, "Let's do that," and I was like, "I'm so scared."
It's very different. Right? Yeah.
This is like an heavy indie rock song, but it is a noise rock song, and it's really fun to play live. And all of the live versions of all these songs are like a little more rock, so it's
well, that can kind of draw a contrast too. With the other stuff, like, because if when you see a band and it's just one thing over and over again. I mean, sometimes if it's the best thing, then it's the best thing. But sometimes it's like, oh, you get like a palate cleanser.
Exactly. And that's like what this whole record sort of has, that ebb and flow, and is done purposely for that. But yeah, it's fun. Here's again, to just talk about fucking indie rock on a noise rock podcast. But
hey man, it's not exclusively a noise rock podcast. It's okay. I've had Tony Visconti in this bitch, you know.
Okay, good.
You can talk about whatever you like.
I went to see the band Porches.
Okay.
And they are a very traditional indie rock band where they used to be a 5-piece and have a keyboard player and 2 guitar players and whatever. And first record on Exploding in Sound. Shout out to Exploding in Sound. Hi, Dan. And
he listens sometimes.
And now that when I tweet at him telling him that I said
I was gonna say, you got called out, son.
Yeah.
Gotta listen now.
But when they came to Winnipeg, they've been doing this recent form of and there's so many synths on the record, there's so many things. They just play as 2 guitar players, a drummer, and then the drummer hits the sampler, and it's just like a rock version of their songs.
Right.
And it's sick. And so I really took a very heavy inspiration of that for playing some of these more like keyboard based songs where I'm just like if these were like, it's like I've played in a couple wedding bands and buddies' wedding bands or in cover sets. I played the bass for a whole Tegan and Sarah cover set. And sometimes you're like, oh, do I really need to bust out this bass synth for this? Or can I just like rock, can I really just like rock this instead?
Yeah.
And so, like, that's how we consider Whispering live, or it's just like, let's just play this like as if it's a Quitter era Tunic song, you know?
Right. Yeah, I had to do that in my old band, and because all the guitars and the keyboard got ripped off, and we were on tour. So it's like, oh, well, I guess we better figure out how to play these keyboard songs on bass.
Oh God, yeah.
Surprise! You want to say necessity is a mother of invention, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, Mother's Invention, one of the best live shows I've ever seen.
Oh yeah. Nice. I wasn't even thinking about that. So yeah, but I mean, it's in, you know, it's obviously it's going to hit a little different, but it's the same song fundamentally. Like if you're thinking about it, you know.
Yeah, and it's this, and we played in drop D. The bass was always in drop D, but now I play it in drop D too.
Which always adds some heaviness to it. Sure.
Exactly, and I think we were just talking about going down to drop C because we typically never do anything in drop, and it'll be fun. So
that's
I pride myself off Tunic being in standard, to be honest, in a world of heavy music.
You know, there is something to be said for that. Can I tell you that I long ago had the idea that every record was going to be a different tuning?
Oh,
horrible idea.
Terrible.
That was the worst idea, and that lasted for like 3 records. I'm like, no, no, and we do everything in drop C now because it's like, well, we can just adjust down for it, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but I like that tuning specifically because what Conan Neutron Secret Friends does is kind of like weird. You know, it's like weird rock music ultimately, right? So it's like when you have like a weirder tuning for that, then you can kind of like you can bring out certain elements to it that you wouldn't necessarily. But I do feel like a lot of bands use it just to play like, you know, heavy riffs, chugga stuff, and it's like, all right, it's enough.
That's why I avoided drop D.
Yeah,
because drop D was too like, I'm like, yeah, check this out. Like,
yeah, it's too easy to fall into that trap, right? It's too easy to fall into. And don't get me wrong, many bands do it well. I'm not saying every band. It's just that it's a crutch.
I tune my guitar down to drop D. I'm playing Slither by Velvet Revolver instantly. Like it's like like it's like I'm like, yeah, let's go, this rocks.
Yeah. And it is interesting because people have very different opinions about drop tunings, and when it can get contentious sometimes, but for me it's like, well, it depends on if it's done well or not.
Yeah
And if every song sounds exactly the same, I don't care what tuning you're in, that sucks.
Yeah And we talked about tuning a full step down. Like if we like this record that we're writing, we're like, okay, are we going to make it in drop C? Yeah. And like, okay, well then we're going to bring 2 guitars on tour. And it's like,
my guy, that is the real question you have to ask yourself. Is like, do we intend to play this with another guitar? Yeah, no, we're not going to do that. No, terrible.
You just tune back up and you just play everything a full step down. Right. I don't sing. I just yell. It doesn't matter. I'm not trying to hit notes. Like.
Even if you do, it ain't worth that second guitar unless someone else is carrying them.
Thank you.
That's it. I mean, so I hear. Anyway, Indirect.
Indirect, aka Spray Paint. This song was just called Spray Paint. It was Spray Paint is one of the best bands ever. I had to decide flying to Vancouver to see Daughters in December 2019 or fly to Austin to see Spray Paint. And I picked Daughters because I still think I'll maybe get a chance to see Spray Paint at some point. But anyways, Spray Paint rocks. We, on one tour that we did very early on in the band, in 3 different cities, we had people bring up Spray Paint to us and be like, "Oh, well,
wow!"
Like it's like, "Oh, y'all listen to Spray Paint, right? Like you mess with Spray Paint, right?" And I'd be like, "I've never heard of this band."
Yeah.
And so like once we were in Austin, obviously, the next one we were in Seattle, and then the next one we were in Calgary, and people are just like, "Oh," and I was like, "Okay, I guess I should listen to this band." And I put it on. I was like, "Oh, this is really, really noisy, like post punk. This is amazing."
Yeah, it's right down the line. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm like, "This is my perfect, like, you know." Like it's like, you know, all these hardcore kids like them because they're, I guess they're, you know, and then all these fucking hipster dorks like them too, and so they, you know, and so I was like, I want to make music that sounds like that, and so Indirect is very much that ending, and then Seth like took it to another level by putting that drum machine on there, and sort of just doing like, yeah, actually, no, I play power chords on that. So there you go. I have to eat my own words. I play power chords on that song.
Get off my show.
Yeah, and And it's just about another local character who I really can't, who I just can't really deal with, a pear-shaped man, if I will, who is that's a lyric, and it's a fun song. We haven't played it since we recorded it, and I don't know if we will. And it's funny to reach a point in your career, quote unquote career, and music when. My wife just texted me pictures of her cat right now.
Where you're okay with it, where there's like you're never going to get to them all in one set, right? Like you've got a deep enough catalog,
Yeah, exactly. Where I'm like, you know what? Well, probably when you write songs for a record, and you're like, you know what? This isn't gonna see the stage, and that's okay.
It's kind of an interesting Rubicon to cross, right? Because like when you're, especially when it's a young band, it's like you almost treat every song like it's like it belongs in the Guggenheim or something, right? And then you're like, oh no, it's fine. That's a song of ours. We're proud of it. It's on a record, and you're probably not going to hear us play it.
Yeah, and like maybe one day we will. Who knows? But like, it's a fun song. It's cool. The drum machine is awesome. Actually, to be honest, I think that song, we want the drums to sound super tight and super on and super rhythmic. And so then Dan like played the beat like 2 bars of it, and then Seth was like, "Cool, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste." Like,
Okay.
Seth just sat there being like, "Well, if we want that effect, then we should just build it."
Yeah.
And we're just like, "Okay," and that was something I would never be okay with before.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, but it's not like you're doing that because you have to. You're doing because you want to.
Yeah, we want to have
because you want an aesthetic.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, and I also just like needed to get over get off my high horse of stuff like that and just be like, no, what, a record is forever. Let's, like,
and that again, it's an important thing. Nobody cares. Like, it's like, no, like seriously, no one's going to be like, that one song though, it sounds like they copied and pasted. No, nobody's.
No, and like, maybe I'll see some fucking nerd on Write Your Music be like, say something about it now that I've said it here, but I'm like, cool, right on. I actually love. You want to be humbled as a musician? Go on rateyourmusic.com. You put your blood, sweat, and tears into something. Some guy's like half star, garbage. I'm like,
what?
Thanks, guy.
Was it a Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back where they track down the guy reviews and it's like some kid. They go beat him up.
That's some Canadian content. Jay and Silent Bob.
That's true.
But yeah, so it's just like indirect, great song, very fun. Play power chords was a great way to end, to make a fun little ditty.
How about Under Glass?
Under Glass, I wrote that on the day that my wife graduated from university, which I remember because I often just record myself playing a riff. Mm-hmm. And I was in very nice clothes, so every time
so you have that like muscle, that sense memory of that.
Yeah, exactly. So when I see a picture, I was like, "Why was I wearing that?" I'm like, "Oh, Fiona graduated. That's why." Like, and we were on her Zoom graduation, looking nice because it was COVID. But
that's right. Yeah,
which is really too bad. But anyways, again, interesting song. Very hard on the hand to play that repeating riff all the time on guitar. Very post-punky. Yeah. Did some battles, tricks on the vocals.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Which is just funny because Seth's like, we could just do the battles thing. I'm like, who made those? She's like, I did. And I was like, oh, sorry. Like.
That's awesome.
But he was a kid. He was a kid when he made those. Like, he was the assistant engineer with Keith, and Keith and him owned the studio. And then Seth's like, look at this video of me. And he, like, pulled up this video of him talking about the Battles record. And he's like, I'm 24. I'm hungover as fuck. Like, he's just, like, looked like absolute shit. It's like an Ableton documentary.
That's awesome.
and so, yeah, there's some Battles vocals sort of in there with Drew's backup vocals. And the ending was really wild to play because it's not really in a time signature.
Yeah, it's almost like free. Yeah.
It's kind of free. It's quite free.
Yeah.
And then actually the song has a capo on the 12th fret, so everything is so high up that I have to play, and it was very hard to put make a power chords with my power chords again. Eat my words again. Very hard to make power chords with my fat fingers up on like the 16th and 17th fret of that song. Overall, good song. Kind of about a one-sided friendship. Mm-hmm. and has not been played since we recorded it.
Do you think it's gonna? Or
I don't know. Do you want me to? We'll do it for you.
that's it's a good tune. Yeah, I mean, you're not a jukebox, but yeah,
It's fun. It's fun. It's fun to play, and it's cool, and the groove is cool. And I remember we actually, to be honest, now that we're talking about this more, we had a lot of back and forth about how the bass was going to work on that song, because I was playing one thing,
right,
and so
right. Yeah. So the bass is going to be carrying the whole Megillah.
Yeah. So we there's probably like 8 different versions of the bass line of that song. So
wow. You can release that as an EP.
Yeah, sure, exactly.
Under glasses.
Under glass, under the microscope.
Oh, there you go. That works.
Yeah.
Closing off, Empty Husk.
Great tune. Very last song on the album, Energy. I saw a comment online saying that I never thought Tunic could write an emo song, so that's funny.
Oh, jeez. That's
and I'm just like, sure.
Tough crowd. Cool. All right.
Oh, I don't care. That's fine. I like that song. We have played this, and we have played it live. I know I've talked about songs on this record being scary. Obviously, this is the most scary song to make.
Yeah.
Because it's, I don't know, I can't read that, but it's over 6 minutes. Is it over?
It's long.
Yeah,
it's long. 6 minutes, 21 seconds.
Yeah, it's too long for a Tunic song. But it's our first EP was 7 minutes, and it was 4 songs. And now we're out here making, songs that are 6. To be honest, we got new songs, Conan, that are like 11 minutes that we're working on right now.
When I used to DJ at this bar, I played like punk rock records and post punk records and whatever. Mm-hmm. I took great pleasure in playing the Led Zeppelin song Moby Dick.
Oh yeah, great.
But like when the drum solo comes in, I played an entire Minutemen EP. Once.
My thing when I DJ,
and then I mixed it back and like I came back in with a riff afterwards. It was pretty great.
I did what I did. My big DJ thing is I would DJ rock and roll records, and I would play Straight to Hell by The Clash. But then I would mix in and out of MIA, Paper Planes.
Oh sure, yeah.
That is the root sample, and so that was always be like bam, 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 and I'd be like, and then
yeah. Okay, cool.
And then I would just like flip between, and it was a good one. And so like all of a sudden I would just like be like Straight to Hell, bah, 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 and then just like
I was gonna say heavily features the gun in that in my version. The gun as a percussive instrument.
Thank you, Diplo.
Exactly.
Who is the person who produced and wrote that? But yeah, anyways, Empty Husk, great. One of the songs where last thing we tracked on the vocals on the record, and my voice was dying. Yeah. And Seth really pushed me to yell as much as I could. Drew and I worked very hard to find that melody at the end. That's something that I never would have written on my own. I wrote about half of it, and Drew was like, "No, you need more." And then what Drew did is that he just did it as syllables first, which I never do. He's like,
that kind of get the sounds.
He went ma 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 ma, and I was like, "Wow, you can do that? You can do that without having the words first?" And he's like, "Yeah, man." And so then because I had like half of it, and so then we just like we wrote the words, and Drew's vocals are heavily present. Obviously, I was listening to a lot of slow rock music here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I wrote this. I work in music as my day job, and I work at Constellation Records as a contractor, which is, to those not listening, is the quintessential Canadian post-rock label. And I am a big post-rock head. And I finally felt confident enough to write a slow song.
Right.
And to write something where I could, sort of talk, sing, and sort of give it a go and sort of pay homage to a whole genre, a whole world of music that I like that I could never explore before in this project. And that's pretty much actually what I just said there is perfectly sort of sums up Wrong Dream as a whole. It's like, the noise rock of Tunic, noise punk of Tunic that you love, but just mixed with everything else that I also love in music.
Yeah, it doesn't lose the heart of what makes Tunic interesting for people for all the earlier records, but you're just you're pushing into doing different things at the same time, which that's for me. It's a rare band that cannot do that and remain artistically valid.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I want to continue to do that. I'm also at a point where I'm like, I always feel like Quitter should have been our first record, but everyone needs to make their first record, and you don't need to be better than them. You just need to outlast them is also the other thing. That's true. And so, Empty Husk was obviously very easy to record because it's not very hard to play. It's quite simple. The ending riff I improvised, and then Seth said, "Okay, great, now double that." And I was like, "Fuck."
What did I do?
And then I managed to actually do it. We did the next take, and I actually played it, and I was like, "Wow, well, I can actually sort of play this thing now." Yeah. And Drew said, "That was lucky." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you've never played the same thing once in that part before."
Fantastic.
And obviously we work with Seth because he's made a bunch of amazing records, and it's a band I've already talked about, but he made the Big Brave records, and now makes other. And so I said, "Seth, how do I get that Big Brave feedback?" And he goes, "You literally just go stand in the room with your amps." And I said, "Oh, okay." And so we tracked all my guitar is just like me with headphones on, like earplugs in, headphones on, like other like shotgun headphones on these headphones of me like playing my amps both dimed, like in the room, just like just like shaking my body. Yeah. So
vibrating into infinity.
Yeah. And then we made and then actually, to be honest, we have a hilarious version of this song. And I can't believe I'm going to talk about this, because there's acoustic guitar and piano.
Right, yeah.
On this song, first ever Tunic song with acoustic guitar, not
with grandpa's instruments, as they say in Metal Apocalypse.
And so there's Christmas bells on it too.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a mix that's, I think, just me, Drew, Dan, and Seth, that is the ending with all the instruments taken out except for the piano, the acoustic guitar, and the Christmas bells. And then it's just me screaming. So it's like, it's just like a beautiful, like, it's like chord and this beautiful, like, piano. And I'm like, and I'm just like, I'm just yelling my head off. And it's just
awesome.
Like, it's just like this 2-minute like loop that we made. They're like, and it was like, we finished mixing this record like pretty much half a day and a half early.
Yeah.
And, because Seth is also just a wizard when it comes to mixing, and it's like, and when you record something so well, it's not that hard to mix. But like, he was just like he showed us like, I think we only did like 1.5, like revisions to everything.
Yeah.
And so we're like, oh well, wouldn't it be fun if we did this? And then we spent like probably an hour and a half being like, let's mess around with like these dumb things, and that was one of the things that we did, and it was amazing. And I know Dan has a video of it, and it's. Yeah, so we also like to have fun here.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's some great extra content. That's some, like bonus features in the making of DVD extra content.
That's the only thing that will be on the Tunic Patreon,
and it's worth every penny.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, the Tunic OnlyFans. It'll be the Tunic OnlyFans.
So. Well, there you go. That is Wrong Dream. You can get that on Artoffact Records and on your greater internets as well. Anywhere you find music, you can find it at the merch table.
Wow. Every show with John.
Yeah, hold on. I got the thing here. There it is. Boom.
There it is.
Look at that. Look at that.
Oh, this way. There we go.
All across the U.S., Phoenix, Los Angeles, Santa Ana, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, Salt Lake City, Denver, St. Louis, Chicago, Toronto, Columbus, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and ending in Brooklyn at Vitus. So there you go.
There
You
you
go. Thank you so much, man. This has been it's been great having you. I'm glad we got to do this.
Yeah, thank you. I was thinking, I'm like, when am I going to be on Conan's podcast?
And then it worked out really well that I was talking to John at the same time too. I was like, wait, you guys are going on tour together? Like,
isn't that wild? Isn't that great?
that's crazy. Like let's just do them like 1 week after each other. And I was like, that sounds awesome.
We've had a couple Zooms now, me and John, and it's been good. And a lot of, I love touring with people that are extremely organized, and he is one of them. And so we got 2 or 3 spreadsheets going with each other right now.
He gave you massive spreadsheet props. I don't know if you heard the episode yet.
I haven't.
You got some spreadsheet props.
Okay, good.
So.
I'm happy because that is. Little does anyone tell you that when you decide to work in music, you just actually work on spreadsheets.
Spend so much time with the spreadsheets, man. It really is. There's no joke involved here. It's
like I had a call today with Jessica Moss, who's on Constellation, and we were just like, I love spreadsheets. Let's fill these out some more and not play our instruments. And that's when so.
Yep. That's real. David, thanks so much for spending so much time with me. Appreciate you. Last thing.
I appreciate you. That's what that was my last thing. Thank you for highlighting this little subsect of the world.
Great to have you, and happy to do it. Can question. Choose to answer it however you like.
Sure.
Why do you do what you do?
Oh, it's the best therapy that I've ever had in my whole life. Screaming and yelling. I was very depressed for a very long time, and screaming and yelling made me stop seeing my therapist, my psychologist of 12 years. Not only because I couldn't afford it, because I was going on tour all the time, but because I felt at ease and I had this amazing cathartic release all the time. So I do it. I would love to say I do it for other people, but really I do it because it's the best high and the most cathartic therapeutic thing that I've found in my life.
I'm glad for it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Take care, brother.
Take care.
There he goes. David Schellenberg, Tunic. I'll put the show notes, put all the tour dates, all that good biz. You know the deal. You know the vibes. And yeah, if you're in any of the cities that Tunic are playing with John, I shouldn't have to tell you this. Go to the show. Go to the show. Didn't even mention that we're going to be behind them a couple days. It's kind of funny. All right, let's go out a couple songs. We'll do an old one and a new one. Here's Disappointment. There you go. That was Under Glass by Tunic.
Is this thing on?
It's a sleeper for me on that record. Wrong Dream is the name of that record. Of course, before that, we had Disappointment, which is one of the more popular songs by the band Tunic, featuring my guest, David Schellenberg. Really appreciate having him on. Really would appreciate if all you Wild and Woolly Protonic fans go out and see the tour with John and Tunic. Should be a good one. Glad that's happening. Name of the show is Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. Thank you so much for listening to it. The show airs Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. Streaming on YouTube and Twitch. Archives of the show always free, always available. ProtonicReversal.com. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding. But if you like the show and want to get episodes sooner, $1 a month. Patreon.com/ProtonicReversal will achieve that goal. Thanks so much for people sharing the episodes along, liking, subscribing on your platform of choice, even leaving a review. All of that helps people discover the show, and it beats back the almighty algorithm. This is a darn nice thing to do, really. So thank you for that. Thank you for your continued support. Appreciate you. Next week, it's going to be a good one. They're all good ones. But, yeah, you're going to want to tune in. Should I tell them? Who am I talking to? Rick from Six Finger Satellite. I'm very excited for this. Tune in. Stay safe out there.
Can you hear me now? Out on
check you later.
128, you're dark and lonely. I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on.